This is Advisor 3.0, a show designed to help you as a financial advisor elevate your professional practice, transform your clients' lives, and take your business to the next level. I am Abraham Okusanya. Welcome to the show. The financial planning profession is in its infancy. That hasn't stopped us, though, from having so many sacred cows. One of such sacred cows is the percentage-based fee or 1% fee charging model. And it's very popular because it works. Another is the average age of a financial planner, which is, in its 50s. Now, again, there is a reason why, because financial planning tends to be the second career or third career for many people. My interest was sparked when I came across the trio behind Finova Money, a new financial planning business looking to do things differently. They are looking to slay all the sacred cows that we have in financial planning. And I'm excited to be joined today by the trio behind this business, Scott Millar, Bell, and Rob Schwarz. Guys, welcome to Advisor 3.0.
All right, it's good to be here.
Good to be here. Thank you for having us.
For the purpose of our audience, guys, do you want to give a little bit of introduction individually about your journey, and then of course we'll come to how you guys met and the journey that led to creating the business. Scott, do we want to start with you? Are you the leader of the pack? I'm making this up, by the way, just for the purpose of our audience. Scott, you want to go first?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Scott. I'm obviously one of the founders of Finova Money. I would say I haven't got a long history in financial planning or financial services. So I left school. I didn't really want to go to university, and I wanted to get into finance, but as the old saying goes, nobody chooses to be a financial planner, so you fall into it. Anyone that does say they choose to be a financial planner is lying. Rob, have you boys ever met anyone that chooses? No. And essentially, I went for a few interviews at some firms. I landed in a financial planning business and ended up doing my exams. I actually really enjoyed it and still do enjoy it, which is obviously why we're here today anyway. And my history is no more interesting than that, to be honest. So I'm now into this, how many years since I left school? 8 years now. So yeah, just decided now was the right time for us to do our own thing. Which we'll get into. Rob Schwarz and I previously met and worked together at a firm before our last firm. We've worked together twice. And it was an overseas firm, so international IFA. So they did things very differently. Which was a good introduction for us to financial planning. We were on the phones quite early, speaking, that sort of stereotypical sales training, which has held us in good stead. And then at our last place where we worked, we did what we would classify as proper financial planning, which gave us sort of a really good training ground for how we do things now. But in short, that is me.
Cool stuff. So when you came in, what was your first job in the industry?
I was an administrator, but my job was slightly different. I turned up on my first day of work. Again, we're being totally transparent, aren't we? My first day of work was, Scott, here is a list of orphan clients that you need to phone to book in first meetings for us.
Right.
See how many you see how many you can get in. And that was my job for about the first month, was basically doing about 100 calls a day.
Wow. That's soul destroying, isn't it? but you survived that, and then did you become a financial advisor at that first firm?
Yeah. So I did my exams, and then I was immediately moved into being a sort of trainee advisor, and then from that point, I've just started doing advice from there.
Right. Just roughly speaking, how long did that take between coming in as, I guess the job was missold to you. You should claim, you should go to force. But anyway, you came in as an administrator. How long did it take before you became a kind of a competent advisor that you actually sat in front of your own clients?
So I did that after about 12 months. So by the age of 19, I was in front of clients, which
That's
is a scary
incredible.
thought nowadays. And to be honest, wouldn't necessarily advocate for it. It's something that I've probably spoken quite a bit about. We always start with the thing I think sometimes we get wrong in this profession is we always start with the technical side first and not so necessarily the human side of the job. I feel like I
Right.
reversed that for me, which was speak to as many people as you possibly can and do your exams alongside it, which worked for me. But I don't necessarily think it's the right way of doing it.
Right. Okay. No, and I get that. And so you spent some time at this firm, and then you moved over to First Wealth as a financial advisor.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. How long were you there as a financial planner at First Wealth for?
5 years we were there. I was
Wow.
there for. Yeah.
Incredible. Incredible. Good stuff. Okay. So Robel, should we come to you?
Yep. So my journey is slightly different to Scott's. I actually I went to university to study chemistry. So
Huh.
bit of a different avenue. After 4 years at university, I just decided I needed a break. I needed to go and see the world. So I booked a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia, thinking I'd be away for a year or so. I think it was nearly best part of 3 years later, I came home thinking that that degree I had worked so hard for would still be worth what it was worth when I'd originally graduated. It turns out it wasn't. It was very challenging to try and find a job that I was interested in chemistry. Ended up working in a lab cleaning, and ended up with dyeing my hair ginger with all the chemicals I was using. So one of my friends saw me and my hair had all gone ginger across the top. And after I realised I was about to pass probation and then fall into like a 2 or 3 month notice period, I thought this isn't for me. So ended up finishing up there, and I started looking for actually accountancy jobs because I like numbers, love that side. Always enjoyed working with people, and accountancy seemed like quite a good fit with that background. My sister's other half is an accountant, and he warned me off it quite quickly. He goes, "You're a bit too energetic for that. You're a bit too busy for that. I don't think it's the right fit." And just so happened, I got contacted by a firm up in the city looking for people to come in as trainee advisors. So that's back in 2015 is where I started, and I went in, had a few interviews, and essentially it was phoning up prospective clients to try and get them to come into a meeting with one of the existing advisors. I wasn't very good. I didn't have the conviction. I didn't have the knowledge. I'm trying to sell something on something like an idea that I didn't understand myself at the time. It was a real shock to the system. It just so happened that kind of partnership went their separate ways, and I ended up in a small open work firm where I came in as a business manager, worked through a lot of the administration tasks, bit of the kind of outreach marketing, and then progressed up into paraplanning. That was it was good. I was there for just over 2.5 years. Subsequently, went to First Wealth. That's where I really got to understand what real financial planning is, how to deliver it properly. I was a paraplanner for 3 years. Worked with some absolutely brilliant clients, and then moved into the advice role where I continued that journey. And then here we are today, many years later, and really enjoying it.
Incredible stuff. Rob Schwartz, should we come to you?
Sounds good. So I left university, got a job in sales close to home, and thought it's the be all and end all. Had a company car, got paid quite well, good pension, thought that was it. Selling plugs and sockets out of a warehouse. So that was my sort of first fully fledged job, if you like. And about a year after I joined there, I got I was on holiday actually with my now wife, and we were laying on sunbeds on the beach, and I got a phone call from an unknown number, but I took it, and there was this guy called Anthony who was a recruiter for an offshore financial advice business, promising me the world, saying that I could go and work in one of their 50 offices wherever I wanted to in the world, earn really good money, get into the world of finance. And I sort of binned him off. I said, look, I'm on holiday. Sounds great, but just call me back, like, when I'm home in a week or two's time. And I got off the phone, and my wife said to me, "Who was that?" I said, "Oh, it's a guy trying to get me to leave my job and go and work abroad." She said, "Doing what?" I said, "Finance." She said, "You're rubbish with numbers." I was like, "I know." I don't know how he's got my number. And he said, "Oh, I could earn really good money." My wife said, "Did you get his name? Did you get his number?" I said, "No, it was an unknown number, and I didn't take any details." So I thought nothing of it. And then a week or two later, he called me back, and I said I apologised for not taking it too seriously, but then pursued it a little bit longer. And within about 2 months, I'd quit my job and I'd gone to work for this firm, joined the Zurich office in Switzerland. So I lived there for a couple of years, and essentially, as the boys have said, the first job I had was cold calling. So it was, here is a list of people to call, and to try and get them booked in for an appointment with an advisor. You will get a cut of any of the money that they make from these large commission checks from selling investments. And that first day I turned up, I was given a script, I was given a list, and they said, "This is just call up." And the first call I made, all of the office gathered round, and I had this audience listening to my first pitch. And nothing toughens you up more than your hands shaking like this as you're trying to speak to someone and tell that you're reading this thing. So anyway, was there for like a couple of years doing that. It was good fun, made some really good lifelong friends. The job wasn't great, admittedly, but kind of got me on this to where we are today. Then I moved back to the UK, where I met Scott. He was working at the UK arm of the business. That came to an end, and that's at the point at which I joined First Wealth. And then I was there for 6 years. Went back. I was still waiting on getting a couple of exams, so I actually started as an administrator at First Wealth, and then quickly moved on to become a technical analyst once I'd got a few more exams, and then spent a few years advising clients towards the end of the tenure there. It was great fun. I feel like that versus what I was used to overseas and back in the UK, the sort of sales environment versus proper financial planning was worlds apart. It wasn't something that I'd ever heard of or knew about. So, it was a really good introduction to really how I think now to how we should do this job properly. So that was my education. And then, we left back in May, and here we all are now.
It's incredible. I mean, one thing that strikes me as you guys, were talking is how bad an introduction we give people who come into this profession. It's so bad. I mean, I had a relatively decent introduction to the profession. I was recruited into RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland, as what they call an investment manager. And one of the things that I remember was they sent us off to like a 2 weeks residential course somewhere in the north of England. I don't know I can't remember exactly now. And I remember hating the role plays. They made us do this role play. I mean, I had only been in the UK, I can't remember, like 3 years. I hated, not that I hated football, but like I had no interest in football. I had no hobby. I was just a young graduate trying to make and they, like they will sit you down in this horrible, horrible role play things. Now, some people have a different experience, and you're supposed to get on with the client and talk about their hobbies. And, like I was just completely crap at it. But like here, and I can't remember, that was probably 15 years ago, something like that, but hearing your experience, which is more recent, all right, okay, you're much younger than I am, and to still think of what a bad experience for younger people coming into this giant profession of ours, how bad that was. I mean, do you have a sense that things changed significantly from then? Do we now have paths for young people or young graduates coming into the profession? Do you think?
I think it's a it's a good question. I think the benefit that we all agree on is that starting somewhere like we all started makes you appreciate where we were, especially at First Wealth before. And I was speaking to someone else about this the other day that said they go around and train quite a few advisors in certain businesses, and they're going to like a good firm and they see some of these newer starters and they go, well, how are you finding it? Oh, it's all right. And you go, oh, it's at this. If you think this is only all right, there's other places, trust me, that are a lot worse than this. So you don't know how good you've got it. But in answer to your question, Abraham, no, I don't think it. I think it's got slightly better, but I still don't think it's great. I still think there's a long way for it to go. I mean, we can't even agree on what we call ourselves. What is the best exam board to use? What process you should go through to become an advisor? You've got the CII, PFS, CISI, IL, but IBF, whatever it's called, and I just think there needs to be some level of this is our like code of conduct, so to speak. This is how you should behave. This is how you do the job. This is how exams you should be doing, and this is how you have a clear path to getting there. So no, I don't think it's much clearer. I think there's the one thing that I have found, as I'm sure the boys will vouch for as well, is that there's a lot of good people still in what we do, and they're very willing to give up their time to people that are starting out. That say, look, can I just have 10 minutes of your time just to ask you a question on what I should be doing and things like that? And it's one of the reasons that we're quite vocal on trying to get new people in, because it's not that easy. And actually, the problem is nobody chooses, as we all said, nobody chose to be a financial planner, and that should be the bit that changes. How do we make it so that the next generation go, actually, I do want to be a financial planner. I can see how the merit in doing that, and not just as Rob Bell started off with, I don't want to become an accountant. I don't want to be a lawyer. How do we actually get them to say, look, this is a proper profession?
Yeah, no, I mean, shout outs to the guys at Next Gen Planners, with their programs of upskilling and introducing planner or young people into the profession. So maybe I can see a path to improvement with that sort of with that sort of program. But anyway, so ultimately you survived, you made it, right? You then landed in a fantastic, by my own account, my own limited experience with the guys, of a financial planning firm. And from what I can tell, you guys spent over 5 years each at the firm. I know the guys at Next Wealth very well. Anthony, Rob. I mean, these are the best guys. Claire, these are the best guys. And so when I read the press that you guys were, leaving the firm to set up your own, I thought to myself, they must be out of their freaking minds to be doing that. And then I saw on timeline list of clients, we have our CRM where we had new clients, and I saw Finova Money. They are our clients. What am I supposed to do? Tell me, why? What's going on in your mind when you decided to make this move?
It's never an easy decision to leave a business, especially when you're leaving to go and set up your own thing. And that was a decision that we all needed to make as individuals for our own individual reasons. We all had things going on in our own lives that probably all sort of amalgamated together in the end to this sort of perfect moment in time where we felt that it was the right time for us as individuals, but equally all coming together as a group to go, well, if it's not here, let's branch out and do our own thing. And actually, I think when we were talking about this, it wasn't as if we wanted to ever leave there to go to join a different firm. That you're right. I think the way that we gave advice, the planning, the education that we had, was very good, and it put us in really good stead of how to do this job properly. So it wasn't as if the three of us were like, oh, this is shit, we're going to go and join a different business that's doing exactly the same thing. It was either we stay here or we go off, branch off and do our own thing. And I think, we had ambition, we had entrepreneurial spirit within us to want to go and do it. And certain things happening internally that kind of made that decision happen maybe sooner than we were maybe thinking, but it all came around at the right time. So earlier this year was when the three of us left. But as I say, the key thing for us that it was to go and do our own thing, to go and be in control of our destiny, to be able to go and create a business that we can be really proud of. And like I say, they were great in educating us and giving us the tools of how to do the job properly. So it wasn't as if we wanted to just go and join a different firm that was doing it. It was right, let's go and actually forge our own path and take that leap into the unknown of starting a business from scratch and seeing how that goes. So yeah, as I said at the start, there's risk with this, Kay. There's you go from a job that is secure, you're doing a good job there, you've been there for a long time, you look after great clients. I mean, individually I was looking after 160 client families or so. I know Scott was the same, Rob, similar. So you go from this sort of place where you've got security, a really great client community that you're in charge of, you've got a team that you've structured around you, and to then kind of take your foot off the gas with all of that, and to really then focus your energy on dialing down on the business that you're launching from scratch, with no clients. It feels it's totally different. But so the time was right for us to do it, and yeah, not looking back.
Scott, Rob, Bell?
I think a lot of it does come down to having our own lives in our own hands. The three of us have always really enjoyed working together. And the question came down to, if not now, when? If we're going to do it, we can wait, and it just drifts into forever and a day. So it was actually has been a kind of a culmination of multiple things, and it's actually, we could do this, and what's the worst case if it didn't work? And I think we just kind of came to the decision that actually this is something we're all quite excited about. And when you start to think like that, the day-to-day of like just being employed, no matter where you are, is less exciting. So it all happened very quickly, but it was the culmination of all of these kind of hopes, dreams, aspirations that we had as individuals and as a collective.
So I get the entrepreneurial spirit, and it's a bug, right? Once it bites you, you can't shake it off. I get that. And, once you decide, or you have an inclination that you could go out on your own, everything else becomes less and less appealing. But what is it that you're thinking of doing that you think you can do with your own firm that you couldn't do within the existing structure that you had at the time?
Don't necessarily think it's what we could do that we couldn't do there. I think it's like Rob said already. I think it's probably more around just the excitement of having been in control of our own destiny. So in terms of, it's not as if we're reinventing the wheel, right, at Finova Money in terms of how we deliver advice to our clients. There are a lot of similarities to how we used to do it, because as I said before, the way we learned to do it there was the right way to do it. So it wasn't as if we were going from this terrible way of doing it to then reinventing and revolutionizing and creating something completely brand new. We had beliefs on how we wanted to do things differently with regards to how we price our services, for example, the tech that we want to use, how we really kind of develop that client journey and community. And I think, with having this kind of blinkers taken off over the summer when we were then developing this from the ground up, it kind of did open our eyes a little bit to what some of these amazing tools are that are out there, that we could use now that we're working for ourselves. So in a way, it's kind of the freedom to think and the freedom to have that space to think, actually, to look and to go and explore and to invigorate what we're doing and how we can really employ all of these things to make a brilliant business, better from maybe what we were doing before, then that was a great outcome. So, it wasn't as if it was prohibited, what we could do there and that we're reinventing the wheel. It's just the time was right to do it for ourselves.
How much does having equity stakes in the business that you are helping build contribute to your thinking about setting out your own?
I think leveraging on what Rob and Rob have both said, that the ambition for wanting to do our own thing always came down to the fact of being in control of our own destiny, having a say over how we want to deliver it, being wholly accountable for when things go right and when things don't go right, and taking ownership of that. I think that equity in a business, I mean, we deal a lot, right? Like client community that we were working with, we predominantly worked with a lot of business owners, right? And you see the benefits and the drawbacks of working with a business owner. You think, actually, is there some things that I want for my life and Rob wants for his life and Rob wants for his life that actually sort of nicely parallels with running your own business and the things that we talk about with clients: freedom over decisions, freedom over time, a lot of hard work. Let's not get away from the fact that it is a lot of hard work and it will always be hard work with additional stresses. But actually, the reward you get for being your own business owner, for taking on those additional risks, we thought was a worthwhile risk to make that decision to go. I think, in answer to your question, though, Abraham, I think equity stakes makes a big difference, but you also have to be empathetic on the other side of, well, someone else has built a successful business for themselves. I think it's a tall ask to ask someone just to yeah, don't worry, here you go. Here's a percentage of the business that we've worked so hard for. I think it's difficult. I think you can't just expect, I've been here for a certain period of time. Now I've done this, this, and this. You should give me equity in the business. It's like, well, why? So I think there's other ways around that now, where it's a great way of buying in employees to stay longer term and things like that. But I think for us in our specific situation, I think the overall goal of being accountable, having control over what we want to do and how we want to deliver the device was the biggest thing. And lo and behold, that becomes an equity stake in our own business.
No, this is fascinating. I asked because I may well just be projecting my own sort of a lot of conversations, my own thoughts on so many conversations that I have had with younger planners. I discussed this on a podcast that I recorded, I think last week. But this is, I feel that financial planning has what I call a frustrated successor problem or challenge. And this came out of several conversations that I had with both the current generation of owners, right? So people who have built, formidable firms, the best amongst them, financial planning businesses, and younger generation of advisors who were either specifically brought in to, take over from them and be their succession plan, or I spoke to, strangely, 3 guys, not you guys, but 3 guys who went into a business at different time, and they helped grow that business, to, now touching distance of $500 million of AUM. And they said to me, the existing owners want to sell and they want to buy, but they somehow just cannot find a way for those two things to meet and align because of price, because of control, And they said to me these words. They said, Abraham, we have helped grow this business beyond the level that we can afford. So I'm not even talking about giving equity stake. I mean, I think there is, there is something to say to that. But even being able to, and then what happens in these scenarios is that the younger generation, I've seen a couple of examples, they go off and do their own thing. Often, there are clients who follow them. I can also understand the hesitation by the current generation of owners they've built value, they built wealth, it's been blood, sweat, and tears. And, from time to time, every decent financial planning business owners gets a check waved at them by consolidators at mind-blowing multiple that the current generation can't maybe afford, even if they wanted to buy. So I always wonder when I have these conversations about, will things be different if, for instance, you had meaningful equity stake in the business or a path to buying or something? I don't know. Maybe I'm just in my own head.
Maybe it could have been different. It wasn't, it's conversations maybe that could have been had, but I think from our perspective, you see good, not just the firm that we're at, but all across the industry, the profession, really good financial planners who are employed leaving to set up their own businesses, and who will maybe pick to be the succession of that firm. And it does make you wonder why. And I think one of the things that we're mindful of, if we're still here in a few years' time and we're growing this business and we're profitable and we have a team, and don't get me wrong, like if we have entrepreneurial staff members who are building brilliant businesses within a business, I think the openness to conversation, I think, is really important, is to have those conversations ahead of time, to really understand what the drivers and the motivations are behind that individual, really getting to know them, their family, what's important to them. Is it ownership one day? Maybe not, but have the conversation and see. But also kind of make it almost have a service offering almost for those entrepreneurial staff members that you have, as a way to go, look, we don't want to prohibit your growth, and we also don't want you to leave. So how can we structure this in the right way? I think for us, we're definitely mindful of that for the future. And if there's a way where we can create a business that kind of, I guess, wafts those flames of entrepreneurial spirit, rather than just losing those people because we don't have a pathway for them, I think is really important for when we're growing, because we've been there, we've seen it, we know other people that have been there and seen it, and firms ultimately stall because they have good talent that leaves. So it is an issue in the profession, and one that I don't know if there's a solution, because you're right, you also have this disconnect. I know there's a guy I was talking to recently about this who was not promised the earth, but was in fairly lengthy conversations with the business about buying, or the sort of was the succession plan, and then got very close to the deal being done, and in the end they kind of turned around and said, actually, we've just changed our mind. He's gone off and set up his own business, and you kind of go, wow, that's, even with the best will in the world, right? You could be that person on that journey for a year or two to be getting close to what you think is going to be your, into that next journey of your career, and then it could all just get, changed. So yeah, it's a really hard one to answer, but we're definitely mindful of it.
Yeah.
No, thank you guys for being open and honest about this, allowing me to poke around. I just feel that we'll be doing the profession a disservice if we don't talk about these things. I think it's important that we talk about it. And I have a lot of thoughts about this, that I'm going to talk. Sometimes I do talks to myself often in the shower about things that I would talk about if I had a chance. And this is one of them, when that time comes. But anyway, so let's pack all of that stuff and look at Finova Money. Talk to me about the structure of the business, ownership structure. You guys are crazy, by the way. I'm sure you know that. You've seen the stats. Something like 80% of businesses don't make it to the fifth year. All of that, scary stuff. But this is why you're entrepreneurs, because you see the stats, you know the stats, then you ignore it, believing that you can, that you guys can do better. That's the way I approach entrepreneurship. So talk to me about the structure of the firm. High level ownership wise, high level. How did you make that decision in terms of directly authorized versus going appointed rep, and we can dive into things like what you're doing differently in terms of pricing and technology. But let's start with structure. Who's the leader? Is there a leader, or is this a democratic government?
Democratic.
That's why there's three of us. Yeah, we needed a democracy. So I think, and funnily enough, actually, I think having three does make that easier when you need to make tough decisions about things, because we have had tough decisions to make already, and we're only a short way into this journey that we're going on. But having the democracy and the three is a great way to be able to get to a decision rather than being a 50-50 partnership where someone's always going to miss out. So we set the business up as a three. We are all equal shareholders of the business. It's just the three of us at the moment. So we're wearing all the hats of financial planner, para planner, admin, business owner, marketing, CFO. Literally every single hat you can imagine we've got on at the moment. But I guess internally we've all got our own sort of areas where we're probably stronger than others. So Scott is super process driven and has every step of our journey probably for the next 50 years mapped out in some sort of spreadsheet or flow chart. So he's super process driven and he's kind of peddling that. We've got Rob Bell, who loves the technicalities of building plans for clients. Really, as you mentioned, wanted to be an accountant at one point. So this guy does love the technicalities of it. And I'm kind of heading up, I guess, the client experience, the journey, the branding, the marketing side of it. So we, whilst we're all individual financial planners, we bring other skill sets to it. So it's kind of this cocktail of being able to do it. And I'm just really grateful that I've got these two guys that I'm doing it with, because without them, I wouldn't have been able to really get it off the ground, I don't think. Pulling on different experience is really important, and especially in these early days. So that's really key. And then we made the decision to join Sense, the network, as an appointed representative, for a couple of reasons. One, cost. It made a lot of sense for us as sort of brand new business to join an AR. Don't need capital adequacy, things like that. So and the other thing as well was the time that it took to get signed off by the FCA to get going. I mean, our firm application got turned around in a week, approved, done, ready to go. So it was incredibly quick. And the guys at Sense have been absolutely fantastic in helping us kind of navigate this weird and wonderful world that we decided to set a business up in. Consumer duty ready, dealing with the FCA, a lot of the off-the-shelf, not solutions, but off-the-shelf kind of research and pieces they've done already means that we can just kind of absolutely integrate that into our business really seamlessly. So, they've been fantastic. So for us as a brand new business, not only learning how to be business owners, but for them to be able to lean on those guys has been really key. So yeah, that's the rough structure.
So what does it cost to set up, a planning business?
Yeah, it's been well. This is one of the reasons that Rob alluded to there around why we decided to go AR versus DA. Was we all made personal decisions around how much money we were going to need to sit back on to actually live our life first and not put ourselves under pressure to make a certain amount of money, to then have to be in a business to draw money out and then put stress on the business. So that was the first point of call. Figure out what you need from a lifestyle perspective, and then in terms of setting up the business, being AR, I mean, we've probably set this up for under £20,000.
Right.
So that includes us making contributions into the business as a director's loan, and then giving us the ability to then set up what the tools we need, all the other things that come into account when you're obviously setting up a business as well. But to be honest, it's fairly cost effective, which is why we made the decision to go AR. I think if you were going DA, I mean, we were looking at certain avenues on that, and that was north of 75,000 without thinking about your own personal cash flow.
Yeah.
So I feel fairly confident. We've been very mindful of cost. One of the reasons we're using certain tools and trying to automate as much as possible, we haven't got it down perfect yet by any stretch, but is so that we can delay the time in which we maybe need to have additional support come on. Like you said, Abraham, right? Most businesses don't make it after 5 years. One of the biggest risks of that is overspending, right? So for us, it's like, okay, well, how do we drive costs down, still increase and improve the client experience, and also give ourselves enough time to go and meet new clients? And that was really the thought process behind it.
And this is important. Maybe Rob Bell, you can answer this question. I would like each of your thoughts. How do you get your missuses on board? How do you get your missus on board that, hey, you're going to leave this nice, stable firm and you're going to go and do it on your own?
Do you know what? I think we've each been really lucky with our other halves. For myself, I had so many chats with my wife Sinead about this. We used to talk for hours, go on our kind of lockdown walks talking about it. And what it actually came down to is she said she never saw me as animated as I was when I was talking about what I want from the future. And she was like, you just don't seem like you're happy in something where you haven't got like the blue sky above you. It's like you want to be able to have your life in your hands and actually take decisions for yourself. And I think wherever you are as an employee, that's always a question mark. And she was like, if it's going to make you happy, and if you promise me you're going to work your backside off and really throw yourself at this, she goes, I don't want to come home from work, like working a long day myself, and see you with your feet up on the sofa. So I no. She goes, if you're in, and you make sure you do it. And I trust you that if you commit to me, I'll do it. And then I will back you. And we're in a fortunate position that her earnings kind of does give us a little bit of breathing space. But it was a decision we made together first, and then we made it as the three of us. So I think Rob and Scott's situations are slightly different. But so from my side, it was definitely a discussion and decision in home before it became the three of us.
Rob?
Yeah. I had to broker a deal with my wife to make it work.
I like that.
I'm a terrible negotiator, and I got the terrible deal out of it. Basically, I said, look, this is what I propose I'm going to do with the boys. And her response was, well, if you're going to work for myself, I want to work for myself as well.
I love it. I like this lady. Yeah.
So all at once, so we've both quit our jobs, and we're both now working for ourselves. So we're both on this entrepreneurial journey. She's a newborn and family photographer, and is having success with that, and loves it, and has found her complete passion, and is turning that into a career, which is fantastic. But what that meant was that both of us turned income off. So to make this work, we actually sold our place, sold our house, and then we moved closer to family. So there was more support. We've got a 2-year-old daughter. So that kind of had to happen. So yeah, the sacrifices we made in terms of relocating 100 miles away from where we lived, selling the place that we loved, to move into somewhere that we rent, to live off cash, to make, to do this, it is risk. But as I say, I terrible negotiator. I should have made her work, but no, she wanted to be an entrepreneur as well. So
you guys better not mess this up then. Scott, what's the deal?
You know that saying which goes for Rob, doesn't it? If you want to take the island, you've got to burn the boat anyway, haven't you? So that's the Abraham. Mine's much less interested. I live and breathe this. I'm a saver through and through anyway. So I basically saved up. I just saved up the money, and I'm in the fortunate position. My girlfriend's still working, so there's a bit of income coming in, but predominantly we're just going to be living off of what I accumulated whilst I was working, and then we've got a run rate, right? And it's got the runway runs out at some point.
What sort of runway do you need for this thing? Would you say a year worth of runway, or longer, or less, or how do you think about it?
We sort of spoke around 2 years.
All right, okay. Your planners so cautious.
It's different for individuals, though, right? I think
Yeah.
if you were a sort of one-man, two-man band, and you had, like, we're probably in a position where within the next few months, like, we could be taking money. But I think for us, we're thinking longer term. We don't have to, so we're not going to. So we've given our runway to allow money to stay in the company, to think about how we can use that for the business's benefit. I think if you were doing it yourself, there's probably 6 months, if you really knuckle down, that you could then start to be remunerating yourself. Probably not at the level you once were, but initially.
I'm fascinated by this, and I'm sure you're thinking, where is all of this going? What's Abraham's angle? I think this is super interesting to me. One of the things, like, we all criticize SJP, don't we? Right? But one of the things they do, I've always thought that as a profession, we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And one of the things that they do is, like, they give what works out to be something like 40 grand worth of loan to financial advisors who are starting with them. And, so you get this payment over an 8-month period. Now you have to pay it back, and it's one of their moats as a business to keep you longer. But I had always said, half jokingly on Twitter at times, and I said, hey, one thing I would love to do is basically target younger, non-equity owning financial planners within firms that have been acquired by consolidators, and I give them 50 grand for, I don't know, 25% equity in their firm to go off and set up on their own. And I joke that actually I think this would destroy the business model of consolidators, because I'm gonna fund the younger, smarter planners to take the client. I am half joking. I might still do it. Anyway, so as we start to wrap this up, I want to talk very, very quickly about pricing. So pricing is one thing that you guys are looking to change or do differently with the new firm. Have you heard the phrase, if you ain't broke, don't fix it? I hate that phrase. But what's wrong with the current pricing structure, and how are you guys thinking about pricing in the new business?
I think for us, we came at this really when we were building the business back in summer. Was sitting down and thinking about what sort of business would we want to be working with if we were clients, and what do our core beliefs, where does that lead us to in terms of the sort of services we would want, and how would we prefer to pay for them? And pricing, of course, isn't everything, but ultimately what it came down to for us was value. So how much value are we adding to a client's life, and how much time is it going to take for us to add that value? So then we sort of looked at the existing models and thought, well, they don't necessarily chime with that. It's based on how successful someone has been financially rather than how complex their situation might be. There's no sort of cap to a lot of these fees. So you see people paying a huge amount of money for one meeting a year, and they get exactly the same service for someone that's also paying a significant amount less for one meeting a year. So really, we've kind of tried to do it differently. So we've moved to a subscription-based service for the financial planning piece. So we say, how much do you need from us throughout the year, right? So there's an incredible matrix that the guys have built, which is a way for us to really decipher how much time and energy and effort is going to go into this relationship over the next 12-month window. Okay, so there's lots of different factors in there in terms of how often we're going to meet, how many investments we're advising you on, what sort of new business levels there are in there, if there's multiple entities that we're dealing with, is there business, are there trusts, are there kids that we're planning for? So really allowing the client to almost dictate how much engagement they do or don't want. And then really that kind of drives us through this matrix to get to a point where we say that for us allows us to be profitable at a point where we would charge you X amount per month. There's a fixed fee. that covers the cost of the financial planning that we give. Now, for us, when we were doing that, we thought, wow, subscription. We work everything in our life is subscription based now. That makes a lot of sense. We deal with a lot of business owners, so it meant that we could separate the planning fee, as a way to invoice through the business. So again, as business owners ourselves, we thought that might be quite nice if it was a service that we could offer, but while still offering the wealth management as well. So we do it all. So that for us was the starting point to really figure out a way that we could charge fair value for the clients that we like to work with. We know there are different clients that are in there. We know different clients have different needs. But the beauty with that fixed planning fee as well is that every 12 months or even during the year, we have the ability to flex it based on the client's unique needs for that period of time they're going through. So take a client, for example, who is at a significant moment in their life. Let's say they're stopping work, retirement. Okay, so hitting financial independence. This first time they've ever engaged a financial planner. There's probably a significant amount of work that's going to go in over that 12-month, 24-month window to get that client across that finish line. There's probably a lot of tidying up to do with investments. There's probably a lot of actual behavioral coaching and that's going to go into that. So actually, it's probably right that they pay more for the services they use within that 12-month window. Once they get over that financial line and they're retired and everything's set up and it's fairly easy to manage, we have that ability to flex the fee to reflect how much time and energy and effort it takes to work with that client. So I think for us, we would just we then looked at that and go, well, that seems fair. We as a business can be profitable on that model, which is important. We shouldn't be afraid of saying that we need to make profit. We need to exist. We need to be here to serve our clients in years and decades to come. But it felt as a lot fairer for us to work with the clients that we like to work with, rather than just charging them a random ad valorem fee based on how successful they are financially. Was the sort of idea behind it, and then we've just refined.
No, that's interesting. So, I mean, the fees are actually on the website, which is one thing that's different than many firms. So you have the foundations that starting at £100 a month plus, quarter of 1% if on the asset managed, and then you have the core, which is like £300 a month. Plus the asset fees, and then of course you have the family office. I like that family office, which is basically what you do everything for me. Is that the idea there?
Everything. Yeah, we're like the CFO of that family group. Like that, right. We haven't got any family office clients yet, right? But that's the idea there is that there's a scary statistic. With family offices worldwide, I think it is actually that I think it's 98% of family office clients leave the family office when the top tier family members die. Right. Now that is a horrific business model. Right? So 98% of this money is moving away from the family office because they focus too much on the money, getting it ready for the kids rather than getting the kids ready for the money. So there's been no interest in dealing with the next generation. So for us as young planners, we thought, well, how can we help these sort of multi-generational families where we're dealing with matriarch, patriarch at the top, kids and grandkids? There's maybe trust structures in there. There's probably family investment companies. There's all sorts of planning needs. So the family office offering for us is a way to say, look, we can manage everything for this family unit as pretty much as a CFO for them and that family group. And actually, when you compare it to the cost of existing family office offerings, it's still an incredibly competitive price point, even though to many, £2.5K a month fixed fee sounds like a lot. So that's the way to kind of family office reimagined is the way we're kind of looking at that.
No, I mean, I don't think you should be apologetic or anything. I'm not saying you are. I saw some comments. It's terrible. In New Model Advisor, and don't read the comment. I try very hard never to read the comment section. About any news about us, or any article that I write. I can't help myself. But anyway, my point being that you shouldn't be apologetic about that. That high end, intended to be high end service for clients. And the thing I like about this, the way you use the phrase "edge your bets," in terms of you have the flat fee or the retainer monthly subscription base, and then you have the AUM. And the thing that came to my mind when you were saying this, I don't know, did you look at other firms in pricing when you did this? Because Alan Smith comes to my head, that he has a service priced at even a higher level than you guys in terms of the family office, but without the AUM link. But I like that you link the AUM. Thoughts on that front?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the link to the AUM, and I think that for us was what we didn't want to do was make it a requirement for clients to have money invested with us.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So think about some of the clients that we love to work with who historically we may have been unable to work with them because of the way that we price services. So business owners with cash in a company, or property investors with large property portfolios but still need proper financial planning advice, or DIY investors, people who generally just want to manage money themselves, right? That's cool as well. Or tech employees that have got really complex RSUs and things like this that still need great financial planning advice but don't have £500,000 to manage to make it viable for them to be a client. So these audiences who we love working with, who have been underserved by these traditional models, for us, we said, well, let's not make it a requirement to have money under management. Let's just work with as many people as we can that we like to work with, charge accordingly based on a fixed fee that they can pay. I mean, most of the clients we've taken on are actually paying our fees via direct debit, a standing order, each month, either personally or via their business. But we also appreciate that if we are managing money for a client, there's a little bit more work that goes into it. So that's the kind of reflected in the fee there as well. But yeah, we looked at other firms. We, always looking at and listening and watching with interest at what other people are doing. We launched the business at the same time that Consumer Duty came in, so we had to do something different. So that again probably filtered into the conversations we had as well about creating a business that's ready for the future, not one that's just, oh, we were at 1% before, we'll do it at 0.8 because why not? It just didn't feel ever like that was a conversation we ever wanted to entertain. It was, well, how can we actually do this in a way that feels right, that we believe in, that is ready for the future and ready for the clients we want to work with.
Cool.
It was
cool
also
stuff.
it was also around the fact that we were looking at it, just sat down and went, what do we actually do for clients in these sort of areas, and what's the time, the effort, and the value add that goes into those, and actually let's just build something, and to be honest, let's see where we end up, and how does that then reflect across the market, and say, actually, is that fair? Do we feel that's fair? Are we giving enough value add? As Rob said, are we making profit on all of those things as well? And it was really just building it together to say, yeah, this works, and actually it's fairly competitive.
The only thing I'd add to that is, sorry,
Go on,
Abraham.
Rob.
The only thing I'd add is we didn't just look at financial planning. We considered other like accountancy, legal, healthcare. There are lots of different other industries, professions that charge in different ways, and you start to kind of consider how they look, and can we learn something from there? There's always an opportunity to learn something from somewhere, and is it worth actually us incorporating that? So yeah, we spent quite a lot of time just considering what our options were to then crystallize it into where we are today.
So Scott, do you want to talk just a little bit about the tech stack in terms of, you have the opportunity to start from the ground, so what does the tech stack look like today?
Yeah, so you're right. We were fortunate because we had a sort of blank sheet of paper to go, well, actually, how do we want to do this? The only thing that we are mandated to use via Sense is IntelliFlow.
Right.
So that was a starting point to say, well, everything in some capacity has got to flow through that as best as possible. And everything has got to work in cohesion. We sort of planned out our process and said, this is what we want the process to look like. Where can the tech fit in? Not basically make our process fit around the tech, because from our experience, that's where it doesn't work. So we really broke it down for us as a new business, and therefore the biggest thing for us is how do we get new clients, was around, well, how do we do content creation, so to speak. So there's tech stack within the business, but there's also tech stack on sort of acquisition side of stuff, which is, well, what are the questions that our clients that we want to deal with are asking? So we use a tool called Answer the Public, which basically scrapes all of the questions on certain topics, and it ranks them in basically what is being asked the most, and therefore that is our marketing strategy. We go, well, let's answer this question for the type of clients that we want to deal with that are asking this and searching this into Google. We then use the standard stuff, ChatGPT, to then give us, okay, or how do we write articles and blogs and posts on LinkedIn about that stuff. And then on the flip side of that, we use a Capwing, which basically allows us to edit all of our videos, saves a load of time. We don't have to hire someone to bring in and do all of that stuff. And then the last bit is, well, how do we then post all of this stuff? We don't want to be there logging in every day and posting. So we essentially use a tool called Simplified, which logs all of our content for essentially a quarter. And then all that happens is that gets posted on the same time on certain days. And all we have to do is go in and interact. So that in itself gives us a whole basically quarter's worth of content in about one day. So that saves us a hell of a lot of time on that front when we don't want to have to necessarily pay out for any marketing. And then on the internal side, it was really around, well, how is Microsoft, one of the biggest companies in the world, when all we use it for is Outlook, Word, and Excel? And actually, when you actually lift up the bonnet on Microsoft, you realize that is just an absolute beast in of itself. So how do we make sure that we're using that to the maximum potential? And that really runs our back office, so to speak. And then we chose, obviously, using Timeline as our portfolios. That links in with Fundment. That gives us that then gives us the integration that we need into IO for that side of stuff. And then we have the portal on IO, which allows us to onboard clients and deal with clients interactively. So that's really the main quick short snap tour of everything we do. There's other things that we're trialing around sort of AI and stuff like that, but that's stuff for us doing in the background before that's rolled out to clients.
Good stuff. So you're 2 weeks in with the new firm. Have you now started to regret the folly of your decision? How is it going? Do you have clients? How have they found you? Do you have clients from your previous life ringing up to say, I see you setting up. I'm thinking about coming with you. What is it like 2 months in?
It's been good. I enjoyed it. I know that I've loved more than I expected sitting back and building a business from scratch. I say from scratch. We've had a lot of support from Sense, right? I don't want to ever take away from that fact. But coming up with, well, how do we actually want to build it? I've loved, and we've just got to the point where we're able to start taking on clients. So family, friends, professional introducers that we've worked with have been very supportive. Friends and family have been very supportive. We have certain restrictions on existing clients, and that is what it is. But so the next 12, 24 months has always been about how do we acquire new clients. So that's where we went really heavy on the content creation stuff. To say, actually, we found that we resonate better with younger business owners in the majority. Right. And we need to meet them where they are. It's like, well, actually, where do they go for advice? Well, it's not necessarily the traditional method. So how do we get on socials? How do we front of mind? How do we give free value away? How do we then give away value where they feel that they know us before they've engaged with us, because we're posting a lot of stuff, we're doing a lot of videos, offer as little friction to engage with us as possible. So our website's tied up that way. There's a tool on there, Video Ask, which allows clients to go through and choose which is most applicable to them, and give them enough call to actions that we're available. So it's really just, it's a slog.
Yeah.
No, I'm never going to hide and shy away from that fact. And but it's been fun, and it continues to be fun. There is days where you go, this is absolutely mental, and there's so much to do, but I've enjoyed it.
Rob? Yeah, I was going to say, 6 months ago we were still employed. So everything we've done has come around in the last 6 months. So we are still learning. We're still getting to grips with exactly what works. We're having a lot of open conversations with the clients as we're onboarding them to say, like, does this work for you? Which bits have you valued? Which bits did you find a bit tedious? Typically, it's going through all the paperwork with them, but I think give us time. We're just constantly looking for solutions to fix problems, to take away pinch points in the processes, and think ahead to how can we scale these processes. So we've been very good at building our processes. So we've got repeatable systems in place to make sure that the three of us, for the time being, are all doing that. And in the future, as and when we build the team, it's all there and ready for them to use as well. Yeah. So it's been a brilliant learning.
One of the things we wanted to do is be open to challenge was one of our things that we sat down and said, well, let's always sit down and go, how can we be doing this better? And if there's a tool available, if there's things we can be doing that can enhance our client experience, save us time, save us cost, then that's something we should be looking at. I mean, one of the tools we're demoing at the moment is called Saturn, and that essentially transcribes all of our meetings, separates it out into hard facts, soft facts, gives us suggested tasks. It integrates with IO, is in the process of integrating, so it pre-populates all of our fact find for us. And just even those little things, and they're working on other additional ways of improving it. But it's those little things that we're saying, well, actually, how can we be better? How can we be a little bit more forward thinking? How can we not be a technophobe, so to speak? If it's going to work and save us time, then that's something we're going to approach. So we're constantly trying to learn, constantly trying to evolve our processes, procedures, tools. So it's an ever changing landscape.
Saturn is a note-taking AI tool.
Yeah, so it's got an integration at the moment with Teams, and then you can also upload your notes if you wanted to as well. So it's got the option and facility to do that.
Interesting stuff. Look, guys, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you, hearing your story and your journey. So just cast your mind to 5 years' time. You know, we're sitting here. You've invited me for the 5th anniversary of the Finova Money Empire. How is it going? Describe the firm to me at that point.
5 years from now, I think we would like to have a good-sized group of clients we're working with. I think probably have a couple of staff members. So actually growing the team out, potentially with a new advisor or two, maybe we'll see how it goes. Ideally, we want to have a good reputation as a firm that's going to deliver really good advice for our clients. Make sure that we're spreading the right way to do it, helping people, and yeah, just putting out what we can to try and improve our profession and make sure we're all moving in the right direction.
Scott?
Yeah, I think to echo what Rob said is it's difficult. It's difficult to look 5 years when you're trying to survive for the first 12, 24, right?
I know.
But I think for us, I feel there's going to be a lot of change in the planning profession on how businesses are structured at the moment. I think some stuff came out right this week on the news as well, in the industry news, and it's something we spoke around at the PFS conference, which is this idea of typically it's been like one advisor to maybe 3-4 support staff. I think in maybe 5 years' time, if we adopt tools and tech, I think that could flip, where actually we have more advisors because the systems are automated. So difficult to give you a description of what it might look like in terms of size, but definitely continuing to evolve our processes, a good level of clients, a good level of revenue, profit, and continuing just to be involved in the profession as much as possible, to be honest.
Wonderful stuff. Scott Millar, Rob Bell, and Rob Schwarz, thank you very much for your time, for your wisdom, and for being vulnerable and for sharing your journey. I'll be rooting for you. Good luck, my friends, and thank you.
Thank you, Abraham.
Pleasure, Abraham.
That's a wrap on today's show. Massive thanks to my production crew, especially Jake Osha, Melissa Canham, and the entire team. And of course, to our sponsor, Timeline, the market-leading provider of integrated planning technology and model portfolio service to advisors. I do hope you've enjoyed today's show. Head over to Apple Podcast and give us your review there. Until next time, goodbye.